Hello, everyone. My name is Rusty Michalak. I'm the library director at Goldy-Beacom College in Wilmington, Delaware. Today, we'll be talking about creating a culture of ethical AI literacy in academic libraries, a scalable, equity-centered framework. Just to give you some context of the college, Goldy-Beacom College is an emerging Hispanic institution with a student population of about 1,500 students. We are a four-year college in the Mid-Atlantic in Wilmington, Delaware, with undergraduates and graduate students. First, we're going to be talking about AI at the college. These are the tools we use. Grammarly, we picked that up in 2019. We tied that in the critical writing program through narrative essays, a strong response rate paper. Um, Scholar C, we tie that to evaluation. It's been very popular in psychology courses. We've also had it in the critical writing program. Uni Discover, we use to teach students that scholarship is a conversation. We had that in 2019 from 2023, probably unfortunately, the only AI tool that I know of that went under after ChatGPT came out. It had its logistical problems, but we loved, the students loved. We did a survey once in a focus group. Students really liked looking and mapping out their topics rather than trying to scroll down endlessly through Google Scholar or ProQuest summons. They knew it was a really good tool. Once that was replaced, because students liked it so much, we picked up Litmaps instead, which is a tool based out of New Zealand. It's a citation mapping tool that has an AI layer to it, an LLM. We also use Google's Image FX for a visual expression project that we usually do with Critical Writing 1 in the fall semester. We noticed at one point that the students were using multiple different types of generative image generators, Gen AI tools, and the product wasn't always equal. So we wanted to try to democratize access. We don't pay for it. It does have its limits, but everyone is at least using the same thing. It's the only one that we found so far that has good guardrails. And also, finally, we use Gamma. And right now, we are exploring that. We started that in spring 2025 semester with Critical Writing 1. Students just loved it and took over, and we just introduced it, and all of a sudden they went added liked it a lot. So our AI policy for our academic honor code, we didn't have a policy prior to 2022, but once ChatGPT 3.5 was released in November 2022, we created our first AI policy for our teaching policy throughout the college, and we let faculty decide. But our culture had already established with our AI tools in 2018, and many of our English faculty want our students to make a critical decision and use their critical thinking skills and we want the students, to learn if they want to use AI or not. So we introduce that to them, and we really do believe in democratization of access of tools. So we do pay for everyone's access to tools because the difference between freemium and paid for access is quite different. And we want them to have our students to have that experience. Most of our students are are not do not come from backgrounds with a lot of money, so we don't want them to have extra fees. First, I want to introduce you to the CALM framework. This is a framework that I actually created. I've been reading many authors over the years on organizational learning, and I always found it either kind of old and stodgy, or just it's not really relevant to our staff. So we created this framework called the CALM framework, and the CALM framework stands for communication, adaptability, learning, and management. And communication is the advocacy through data and storytelling. Adaptability is the navigating faculty concerns, listicle hurdles. It could also be with staff as well. Learning is growing programs based on feedback. And management is balancing operations with broader equity goals and institutional alignment. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into this now. But I just wanted to where the authors that frame the CALM framework. So if you haven't read Peter Senge's The Art and Practice of Learning Organization, the fifth discipline, I highly recommend it. It's a very good book. It's kind of one of the main treatises of organizational learning. Edgar Schein also is wonderful. Organizational Culture and Leadership. It's a good book. It's a heavy, dense text, but it's worth the read. Finally, one of my favorite books is Roha Benjamin's Viral Justice. How we grow the world we want. And that brings in the kind of the diversity, equity, and inclusion aspect of the Calm framework. We can only really make change through small actions. And that's kind of the essence of what I think Benjamin tells us through, especially through the innovation of diffusion and adopting new programs. And that is the, through the and through the diffusion of innovations, I think that's is the key to it all is making small changes and taking your time to make sure that when you do add new programs, you scale, but scale slowly. So infusing feedback and alignment into the Calm framework. And apologize, but it is dense, but it is important. So communication with feedback integration, establish clear feedback loops to continuously refine communication. Alignment and integration, ensure communication aligns with institutional goals and support broader objectives such as equity and justice. We'll be talking about a lot about this in a little bit, but main gist of this is don't do an AI literacy program if it doesn't align with your institutional goals because it's a lot of work. You have to leave something behind to do this. We have left other programs behind. We stopped doing them so we can focus on AI literacy, but it's important for the college. It's important for our students and the faculty we're asking for it. Adaptability. Feedback informs when to adapt strategies and processes. And we'll be talking about this when we have not stopped using some programs, some AI tools in critical writing, one based off faculty feedback. I think the students liked it fine. They were a little bit confused, and that tool happens to be Scholarstein. We will talk about it in a minute. But they just, it was too early in the program, so we adapted that to teach Grammarly again. And align adaptive strategies with the evolving priorities of the institution, ensuring flexibility is in sync with organizational goals. It's kind of the same thing in alignment over and over again. We want to make sure that it aligns with institutional goals. Learning, feedback drives continuous learning for both leaders and teams. Document and analyze feedback to refine library services and processes. The data does speak a lot in volumes about what you're doing. And if the data doesn't align with what you're trying to do and it's showing you should drop it, you should drop those programs or especially for AI literacy, because we're all learning as we're going along. There's new tools coming all the time. It can be overwhelming. And sometimes things just don't work out. You might really like it, but the students or your faculty might not like it. So it's okay to let things go. And management. Incorporate feedback into day-to-day management practices, ensuring the team's efforts are aligned with institutional priorities, which goes alignment of communication, adaptability, and learning, but it's a kind of a core piece of the Calm framework. The feedback that you receive every day from your team, the faculty, anyone, your collaborators, stakeholders, is important, and you want to make sure that everything that you are doing does align with institutional priorities. All right, first, communication. So that is an important first-year experience program. It's a program that we have all first-year students take the first week of school prior to taking their first class. So these are results from our academic integrity pretests. We asked students, do you use AI in your coursework in high school? So they haven't taken a college class yet and want to know what they thought. 65% said they were not using AI in coursework. 35% said they are using AI in coursework. And I think this will change over the years as more and more people do. But we did have a program recently at a local high school where they all stop said no use of AI at all in any classes. So we'll see. We just don't know. But I do think people are using more and more, and some people just are afraid to admit that they are using it. Quickly, student perceptions of AI, academic integrity, and AI. 88% of the students out of 140 said submitting a paper found on the web was breaking academic integrity, is violation of academic integrity. Looking at a test, neighbor's test during exam, 93% said that was violation of academic integrity. 84% said using AI to write a paper in English 175 or critical writing program is violation of academic integrity. Interestingly, using AI to create an outline for a paper, 34% said no, that is not a violation of academic integrity. And 20% said submitting a draft to ChatGPT for improvement is what we try to teach them, that it's like a peer tutor is not a is a violation of academic integrity. So that's great. 80% thought that it's okay to use to submit a draft for improvement. And they haven't had one of our classes yet, but it's great to see that alignment. Submitting a draft to ChatGPT for improvement. Talk about it again, just make sure to emphasize this is what our key point. So 80% said it's not a violation, 20% said it is a violation. And now embedding AI into critical writing curriculum. Adaptability. So go back to that column framework. And second one, communication, now adaptability. And we'll go back to communication just real quickly. So it's important to share these numbers. We shared these numbers with faculty. We shared these numbers with administration. We shared these numbers with students too. We wanted to make sure they knew what their peers saw. So we wanted to make sure that we collect the data, but we also share the data. So going back to embedding AI into the writing curriculum, adaptability. We have started out with three assignments that we tie AI tools to, and that is narrative essay, the strong response paper, and the visual expression project. Narrative essay, we tied to Grammarly. Strong response paper, we tied to Scholarly. And we've moved beyond the strong response paper a little bit, and we've changed that up. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And the visual expression project, we use ImageFX. So management. And this is going a little bit out of order for the column framework, but I think this is important. This is very important for us at the college, and we've had some feedback over the last month or two about this, and they're very, very surprised. But every single one of these tools we are either exploring or are trying to get access to, or make sure that students do have access to the same thing when they're doing their assignments. So all students, library licenses, Grammarly, Scholarly, and Lit Maps for all students, staff and faculty at the college. We are exploring Gamma and ImageFX, but when we do introduce these tools to AI tools, Gamma and ImageFX to critical writing, we make sure all students are using the same one. Of course, they can choose something else, but we want to make sure that no one has different access than others. So we do want to make sure that the democratizing of access to AI tools is clear to everyone at the college. Now go back into learning. So Grammarly has been our most widely accepted tool by all faculty in all disciplines, but especially critical writing. We've gathered statistics, and we found a baseline that from last year, from 2020, 23, 24, and the academic year for 23, 24, and that students accept only 75% of what Grammarly tells them to to accept. So we do teach them critical thinking skills. We want to make sure they either accept or dismiss their suggestions. And it's absolutely okay to dismiss their suggestions. So I think correctness generally, we tell them that's probably a little bit more important, especially for spelling. But commas are a choice, and we don't want the standardization of the English language. We want them, especially for a narrative essay, which is Grammarly, is the first assignment we use Grammarly for. We want to make sure that they know that. And we didn't have a baseline before. So go back to learning. We're learning as we go along. Most electronic resources tool, we kind of have, we can do a baseline of what other peer institutions do, but we don't have that baseline with other institutions. So we're creating one as we go along. And so we teach them the CLEAR framework, Leo Lowe's CLEAR framework. We teach them prompt engineering, and we show them the generative AI feature. That's been especially important for another assignment when they're looking in the databases into creating library keywords for the library databases, or the research paper keywords for library databases. It's very, very important. And at first we didn't do that, but as time went on and with different assignments after we found out it's been really helpful because students really struggle finding those keywords. The pros has been teaching them to revise and reflect. It's a human tool collaboration. We do not share with them the plagiarism checker. They see it. We tell them about it. I've shown them a paper that I've written completely by hand, and it says it's 100% AI. It detects AI, and I've written papers 100% by AI, and it says it's human generated, so it's not right all the time, and we don't focus on that at all. We do talk about it in class, but it's not something that our faculty have adopted at all. We believe in educating them. So Scholarcy is one of the ones that we learned from the most. We actually dropped using Scholarcy for our critical writing one programs. Our psychology program loves it. It uses it, especially in the Masters of Counseling program. So it does get wide use throughout the college, but for critical writing, it just wasn't working for our strong response paper. So we've kind of changed up our strong response paper this year. So first it was, we wanted, with Scholarcy, they wrote a abstract or a summary of the common reading program book, which was more for empathy, and then they used Scholarcy to create a summary, and then they compared and contrast them. The students just really didn't understand why they were using Scholarcy, so we had discussions over last summer, and we actually adopted Grammarly. And before we move on to that, we're going to talk a little bit about Scholarcy tool. So it was really good for comparing and contrasting human-generated summary to a summary created by Scholarcy, according to faculty and to me, the librarian. But the students weren't getting it, and they just and of course, evaluations kind of were negative about it. So that's why we got rid of it. It reinforces that you work with AI and it's a human tool collaboration, and helped with evaluation of information for our information literacy things. Like all things with AI, it doesn't really work well if it's not a structured H1, H2 social sciences paper or science paper. This is a humanities book that we were using, so it really took us a long time to get uploads these chapters from the book into Scholarly. So that's just something to take into consideration. So now back to that Grammarly paper. So this year we're actually using Blue Books, where the students were teaching and revising with Grammarly. So they write it in a Blue Book, then they go in the classroom, and then they go key in the library session into a Word document or into Grammarly, whatever they choose, and key in their essay. So again, that's another way of revising the paper. And then they use, for the third instance of revising, they go in and they use Grammarly to refine the paper just a little bit more. So that's how we changed it. So we used Scholarly, and now for the strong response paper, we are using Grammarly. Our third assignment that we usually in the sequence is the visual expressions. It's a great program. The first time we actually did this, and this goes back to that learning aspect of the culture. We did it. We showed them. We showed them how to do this, the visual expressions with AI, how to do prompt generation, all that stuff. But everyone used different tools, and the product was subpar. So we wanted to pick one tool. The image FX is great because it allows them to have probably at least enough for the session, enough prompts in the session to last them. So usually close to 30 to 40 prompts, which is enough for them, but then it resets the next day. We also like it. So there is a token limit, but it's not a huge token limit. And we also like it because there are guardrails. When students were putting in prompts for empathy, and it was uh, adult and someone in a playground, image FX wouldn't generate that image. So that's actually pretty cool. This is an image of one of the AI generated images, and we put it in Cortex, and which is our cultural digital asset management system. If you haven't seen Ada, this prompted, this is a robot who generates art. This is one of her things. It looks like Queen Elizabeth. She created it. There's a video on BBC on it. I highly recommend using it. It's one of the things that we learned that we have to have in our discussions and in our critical writing program, because talking about art and expression has generated a lot of really great discussions. The last one is the last assignment that we have been doing. Well, not the last one. We skipped one called, and that's lit maps. But we did Gamma, and it's a really cool tool. It's not one that we're still working on. It's hard to license ed tech tools sometimes, especially with Gamma. Haven't worked with libraries before, so we're still working on them to create a license. But we use it for a simulations assignment, where then they had to make kind of a pitch for certain things. So like why we would keep a national wildlife refuge. They had to make pros and cons broken in two teams and use this presentation software to do it. It's really cool because they come in with the outline, and then are then they say and then and then they put it in there, and then they kind of update the different cards, the slides. There is a token limit. It's about 10 slides for the free version. 10 token limit. There is a token limit, but there's also a card limit. There's 10 cards per for the free version, and but it does help them save time, and they love it, and they really and there's not much teaching involved in it because they already know how to generally work with PowerPoint, and this is a lot easier than using PowerPoint. So now, if you have questions, I would love to hear from you. You can always reach out to me. Again, my name is Rusty Michalak. I'm Goldy-Beacom College. I hope you all have a good day.